Hey there, it's Jason Gorman from Codemanship with another video diary update. Just a quick thought this Sunday afternoon about Agile Software Development. What happened to it? When I first got involved with Agile 20 years ago now, pretty much, back in the days when extreme programming was taking off, so this is before it was referred to as Agile Software Development, it really chimed with me. I'd been involved, I'd kind of drunk the methodology Kool-Aid. I was into the capability maturity model and into sort of heavyweight methods, well-defined methods like the unified process and select perspectives, sort of model-driven processes, and high-integrity processes like syntropy and catalysis. So I was very much right at the heart of methodology city, and something didn't seem quite right to me as a software developer, as a programmer. Didn't really quite buy into it all. And when I came across extreme programming, first of all at conferences in the late 90s and then reading the book Extreme Programming Explained in 99, it was ringing a lot of bells with me. A lot of it really chimed with me. For example, the idea of developers, small teams of developers working directly with their customers, I'd always felt that I can go and have a conversation with a customer. I don't need a business analyst to tell me what code to write. I can do that. And as a team, we can do that. Test-driven development in particular I was attracted to because it felt a lot like formal methods, in the sense that at that point, I was kind of used to the idea of coming up with a precise specification of what we want the software to do, and then writing unit tests based on that specification to make sure that it does it. And it made perfect sense to me. We just cut out the middleman. Why not just write the unit tests? If it's going to end with unit tests, why not start there? Refactoring as a design discipline, I was familiar with the idea of refactoring in terms of cleaning up your code, but as an essential design activity, this was kind of a new idea to me. So there were a lot of things in there that I was very excited about that worked for me personally. And I began to use more and more of these ideas until by sort of around 2001, I was pretty much just doing extreme programming. Now, fast forward a few years later, and the money men have moved into Agile. And suddenly it's not about small self-organizing teams working directly with their customers, rapidly iterating solutions to solve their customers' problem. Suddenly all these roles are back with names like Scrum Masters and Product Owners and all these sort of legacy roles, or people who were project managers or business analysts who got out and got certified basically, and now they're Scrum Masters or Product Owners or one of those kinds of things. And we were kind of back where we started. The processes were very prescriptive. We were supposed to have the stand-up meeting. We were supposed to use the burn-down chart. We were supposed to groom the backlog. We were supposed to have the weekly retrospective, etc., etc., etc. And it all felt like Groundhog Day to me, like I'd been there, I'd seen that, I'd done it, and I've never really believed, truly, that it works. And I've never really seen it work. What I have seen work is small teams of self-motivated, self-organizing, skilled developers working directly with their customers, rapidly iterating solutions, learning with each release, watching what the end users make of each release, and incorporating that feedback into the next release. That's the only thing I've actually seen work. So I'm a big believer in XP, but I kind of became very disillusioned with the whole Agile with a capital A thing. Now, fast forward to 2020, and whatever Agile is supposed to be today, particularly this thing they call scaled Agile or enterprise Agile, I don't recognize it at all as being what really turned me on as a developer in the late 90s and early noughties. It's not the same thing at all. I don't see it as being anything to do with agility with a small a, and I don't want any part of it. To be honest, I've been involved with and seen firsthand some of the case studies for these sort of scaled Agile processes, and no, I'm not buying it. Sorry. I have, on the other hand, seen extreme programming work for real. So the thought I'm going to leave you with this afternoon is, so XP didn't really invent its practices, and the creators of extreme programming and the people who wrote the books and championed those practices were very honest about that. They didn't invent things like refactoring or test-driven development or continuous integration. What they did was they took the practices that the best programmers they'd seen working were doing, or had been doing in some cases for decades, and just said, well, let's do that then. So they distilled down all the things that the best teams they'd seen were doing and said, let's just do those, and none of the rest of it. Now, I think a good next step for the software development community is to go back to that. Go back to those foundations, go back to those basics, go back to those practices that have been tried and tested and refined over decades. Test-driven development, for example, dates back to the 1950s. It works. Trust me, it works if you're doing it right. Let's go back to those. Let's go back to XP, start again. Let's not call it extreme programming this time. Let's just call it what it is, which is software development, and it's software development done well. It's decades, 50 plus, maybe 60 years of lessons in software development and doing it, distilled down into a small number of self-supporting practices upon which you can build. They are not the be-all and end-all, and they won't work in every situation, but I've found with teams, particularly when the team is new and we're just meeting, rather than spending months arguing about, going round and round in circles about how we should do this and how we should do that, I just say, well, how about to begin with, we just do, for the first iteration, we'll just do extreme programming. By the book, the way it's written. We'll start there. We will get something delivered. Won't be perfect, and there will be room for improvement, not just in the product, but in the way that we're working. But let's go back to the original spirit of Agile and do that. So my final message is, don't be Agile, be extreme.